So, blessings to all creatures, great and small. Blessed be this planet, and give gratitude and thanks for all the things that we have. You know, we forget perspective sometimes, you know. So this is a bit of frankincense, and yeah, I'm starting to burn this now to help with the clouds in my head sometimes, you know, and just constantly the need to clear space. I mean, this is what I'm doing. I'm expelling toxins, dogma, conditioning, you know, nonsense, you know, bad habits, addictions, you know, and all these things help, you know. Frankincense may be more associated with the, you know, the church, but it's been scientifically proven that it's a natural antidepressant. So there's a chemical compound in there, if you like, that helps us with being happier, you know, like a little natural high, something psychoactive, you know. No coincidence that they were burning in the church then with whatever else was in that, you know. Not so much for the children, certainly. I found it really difficult to sit through a couple of hours of mass, but you did, because you didn't know any different, you know. And I went on to become an altar boy, and with the sole purpose of helping the priest count the money at the in the house, you know. Few quid ended up in my pocket. What can I say? You know, a little. We were poor. That's what it was for, eh? I don't have any guilt around that, or you know, when I look at where the wealth goes, you know, in relation to the Vatican and stuff, you know, it makes no sense to me anyway. You know, you can talk a good story if you're a bishop or a highly educated. You know, God-fearing man or creationist or you know, professor in theology, whatever, you know, and don't get me wrong, there are some amazing people out there, you know, there's God-fearing men, you know, who are Christian, you know, that are into evolution, you know, so it's very interesting, you know, and there's so many, I mean, there's 40,000 different types of Christianity. It's I mean, it's nuts if you ask me. But you know, back to the kind of you know, self-cleansing, and you know, it definitely works. There's something in it, you know. As I said, you know, maybe there were other substances in the old incense that was going around the church in those days. But yeah, not to take away from, as I said before, the the power of prayer, but you know, what are we praying to, you know, and giving ourselves up, or what are we actually doing when we accept, you know, the body of Christ, or you know, because some of the things that I interpret or read are very much like, you know, well, you know, some of the very simple things, you know, that Christ talk about, you know, makes sense to me, you know, but hey, those teachings were around long before Christ, you know. And you know, there's those that believe in the, you know, the afterlife, and the way, like that, you know, the only way to get to heaven is through Christ. I don't think this is what Christ was saying, you know. So I don't know. It brings me to my what's it? Fourth communion, yeah. Yeah, I would normally do the earth, but I'm going to do the angel of life today. Yeah, anyway, it goes like this. I think it's relevant to what I'm saying, because listen to the importance of this, the way that this is presented, you know, because it's so true when you think about it, you know. And it goes like this. It's angel of life, she who gives strength and vigor to man. For lo, if the wax is not pure, how then can the candle give a steady flame? Go then before the high-growing trees, and before one of them which is beautiful, high-growing and mighty, say these words. Hail be unto thee, O good living tree, made by the Creator. Then shall the river of life flow between you and your brother the tree. Health of the body, swiftness of foot, quick hearing of the ears, strength of the arms, and eyesight of the eagle be yours. Such is the communion with the angel of life, holy messenger of the earthly mother. So that is essentially the fifth communion in the Gospel of the Essenes. I would normally have done the fourth, but I feel like doing that one today. And besides, I struggle with the fourth, which is a little bit longer, and because I don't say it as much as the other ones, you know. And I have to remember it. I've almost got it down, so next time. So yeah, angel of life, she who gives strength and vigor to man. For lo, if the wax is not pure, how then can the candle give a steady flame? This to me is so obvious, you know. It's like and you know, the hill before the brother, you know, commune with your brother the tree. Go to the woods, you know, where there's some natural healing available, you know. And you know, like I said, I've lost a stone in weight. It's like, you know, all these fads and pills and diets and this. Just stop eating. That's it. That's all you got to do is just stop eating. You're overeating if you're too big, and don't get me wrong. Some ladies are naturally voluptuous, and that's all well and dandy. But like, you know, if you feel, you know, you've got too much fat on you and stuff like that, then it's the food. You know, generally speaking, you know. So this is a thing that we all seem to do, you know, which is overeat. And so, you know, if we want to keep this this temple, this body, this you know, imagine this candle flame, this flame alit and you know, focused and you know, optimum health, running on all cylinders. You know, I often remark to being someone who's running on 2 cylinders. You know, 3. You know, in the scale of 9, like I've got 9 cylinders, and you know, and so there's been times when I've come pretty close to running on 6 or 7, maybe 8, maybe an explosion of 9 once, where I've just completely on form, but never been able to, you know, steady it and keep that balance, you know, which would be a fine thing, you know, if not for this extreme that I go from in left to right, you know. And so yeah, I believe, as I was speaking to a friend today, you know, when I said something about the middle ground and balances, that we was referring to as, you know, something that this is what the Buddhist said, is the only way is the middle way. So you know, I went out this morning from talking to a caravan guy in relation to yesterday, who is a dealer, and you know, it spoke my language in relation to what he was saying about, like, oh, you know, you won't get a decent. I mean, he's Irish and he's only in Monaghan. He's not like he's in England or something, you know. But he was just saying, yeah, I get my caravans from England and they're all tip top and blah 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 and all this kind of stuff. And it was you know, we almost made a deal over the phone, and it was just like, but when I got there, you know, it's clearly there was no oven in the caravan. And you know, I was looking at it and kind of thinking, you know, I'm not really, you know, it's a bit too much money. And again, you know, even though he's given me a 3-month guarantee, he's not able to show me the stuff working. And I'd made myself clear on this. I need to see the stuff working, you know. So, and then the projection comes from him, and like I'm wasting his time, and he was getting annoyed with me when I was actually getting lost because he was unable to give me clear directions and so on. And okay, he's one day off the smokes, and so I gave him my barrage of knowledge, and you know, got him taking notes. I said, you got to get these herbs, man, you know, so that you don't end up killing your wife, you know. And tell them you've stopped smoking. It's going to be tough for the next month or 2, you know, because there's a process in withdrawing and so on. And this, you know, skull cap will help close that hole in your aura, you know. And coltsfoot, very good for the lungs. And you know, throw a bit of hemp leaf in there to help with the headache, you know. And you know, this withdrawal is going to happen. Sea moss, carrageen moss, good for the lungs, the respiratory system, you know, will help keep you grounded, you know. And so I gave him a wealth of knowledge, and suddenly when it wasn't going his way, because I thought, look, I've actually got to go to an English side of the border to get a SIM card for my ex-English phone or whatever. So and I'll be back in an hour, you know, because at least see the stuff working, and you show me it working, and then we can, maybe I can get an oven somewhere else, But it was just one of those things anyway, where suddenly he's like, he's getting annoyed at me, and he's getting angry almost, like, and I'm like, well, I'm not really digging his energy, so it's spiraled into kind of like, you're just wasting my time, blah blah blah, la la la, what's the point, you're not even 100% anymore, and I'm like, well, no. You're a dealer, man. You could get the caravan of my dreams next week, and it's like, don't make no sense, the way you're dealing with me right now. So he ejected me, by saying don't come back. And I said, wow, brother. I was just kind of afterwards. I was going, man, I've just given you a whole bunch of things that may help your relationship and your easy transition into non-smoking. He probably got so annoyed, he's probably went off and had a smoke, But it was a question of when he was talking about it, it was like, wow, I have to do this, I have to do this. Health issue, I have to do it, So there we go. And isn't it interesting that, when somebody thinks that they're above somebody else in relation to it's an interesting, scenario that we're all used to. When somebody thinks that they're not behaving in the way that they're talking about other people, and often enough, like a lot of stuff like that just comes up for us because we're basically we need to recognize that that aspect of ourselves, which is usually generally the time for compassion. We're always really good with advice as well for people and what we would do in a situation. And can't understand why they can't behave that way or whatever the case may be. But when we're in that situation ourselves, we behave worse often, So this kind of thing is very interesting energetically, how this works, And so, he made a generalized statement as if, the population of Irish, he wasn't including himself, but he's included in that. But I wouldn't go for that kind of type of generalization at all. Just a small handful of people. So far so good. Brought me to a situation. I ended up visiting a friend yesterday, who was around the corner from one of those caravans, and he missed his counselling session, and so I was his counsellor for the afternoon, and didn't cost him anything, and he said, wow, that's so much better than what. In fact, he's not going to do it anymore because he's got friends like me. And he was even thinking like that. But why am I spending all this money? It's not really doing me any favors. So, it's just interesting. So that particular caravan person who brought me down there, that was the side effect. So how can you get yourself into that situation where you're not angry at people because they they didn't live up to whatever it is you expected, or they weren't on time, and for whatever reason, because I've noticed that when people don't turn up or not on time, it always leads to something else. But that's because I ground myself in that, and I build on that, and I look for the bigger picture, And don't get me wrong, I've had my moments, and years ago, I was brutal, like, I used to get so angry and annoyed at this whole story, like, because we are like, by and large, copycats, mimics of this type of energy, like if we're grown up in that environment or it's around us, and until we realize that actually there's other ways of dealing with stuff, So, that's really interesting anyway, just that story, what kind of happened there, because he was one of those guys himself, and in effect wasted my time, but I was able to go just 20 minutes away, and I got the sim I was looking for, which I can't get down this part of the border. So, and I'll be wanting to do that anyway, and I might not have, at the end of the day, there's always a bigger picture. I had a fantastic conversation on that sim on the way back to a friend who's in England that otherwise would have costed me more money, So, all about the bigger picture, and, listen to that communion, because that communion is inviting us to one of the most profound healings available to us, and it's free, and it's nature. So blessed be, and peace, and love yourself, and yeah, we'll see you again tomorrow, Happy days.